So today's Enneagram video is about Enneagram type 9, and it's about how Enneagram type 9 can be really bludgy. So a scunge is a word we use in Australia. Yeah, like there's a difference between being bludgy and being cheap, and they can definitely go together, but it's not the same thing. So for example, I remember when Facebook first became popular, and I remember the first person I saw on that who tried to use it to get stuff off people, like off his friends, was a type 9, and he made a series of different posts asking if anyone had like a spare toaster, or if anyone had certain pair of shoes that they wanted to give away, this kind of thing. Remember he was going to some sort of a party once, like a dress party, fancy dress party, and he was asking if people had a certain kind of pants so he could use them. So he's always asking for these things on Facebook. Now, I'm not saying that that's a type 9 thing necessarily now, to ask for things on Facebook, but when Facebook was new, it was kind of significant that the first guy that was asking for things like that I saw was a 9. And I do think there's a good chance that if someone is asking for things like that nowadays too, they're a 9. Might be sort of different elements to it now. Like I noticed someone, I believe is a 9 recently, who I used to know, and he was asking people to fund him and his partner's trip to Japan. They're going to relocate and live and work in Japan. This guy must be in his 30s. And yeah, so it's quite he actually set up a GoFundMe or a Patreon or something like that. But it's not like he's an artist, right? Like, this is just a guy. So a YouTuber might have a Patreon, and I'm sure there's all sorts of types that will have a Patreon. But this was just a guy that was asking people to pay for his ticket, and he just listed all of the different fees: the ticket, the first few months of rent, visa fees, all of this kind of stuff, and was asking people to pay for that, well, to contribute. So who else have I, that guy, and another guy I remember who was a 9, and I remember we went to bars a few times, and I remember him talking about how people bought him beers all the time. I don't think I've ever heard a guy say that to me outside of him saying that to me, and he was a type 9. He was just talking about how guys buying beers all the time, and he's because they like to, because he's I forget what his words were, but he was implying that he was an affable guy or something, and so guys invite him places and they buy him beers. And this was not some sort of a sexual thing or anything. Like, he wasn't implying that they wanted something. Not that buying someone a beer necessarily implies that, but I mean, like if you're talking about getting guys to buy you things, and you happen to be a guy, someone might read something like that into it. Anyway, what else? Like, yeah, this kind of behavior I've definitely seen from the type 9. So when I say bludgy, I'm talking about you want someone to do something for you, or pay for something for you, or give you something for free. It's not like some sort of an exchange. And the difference between that and, say, cheapness would be where someone just won't spend any of their money on anything, won't buy anything, or there's a very big difference there. So someone could easily not be a bludger but be incredibly cheap because they never ask for other people for things. And I remember with that beard type 9 guy too, I remember once when we were going to a bar and he was really trying to get me to buy him a beer. At the time he was unemployed, but I wasn't working full time at that point. And anyway, he just kept going about like, oh, come on, buy me a beer. And then eventually he got quite angry and sort of aggressive about it. Just give me a beer, just, you know. And it was taken to that extreme. Yeah. And I remember another guy who was a type 9, and this is kind of the flip side that's also really important. And I remember once I asked him for a lift because he passed my house on his way home, and we were at a social group together. I think I caught the train or something, and so I asked him for a lift home, and he was like, oh yeah, he was definitely not happy about it, and was like, oh yeah, I'll do it for you, but just this once, something like that. And you could sense in him this real resentment that someone was asking him for something. And I think there's that element too in the type 9s. Like the type 9s that I've seen that are bludgers. Well, I've seen a lot of type 9s that are bludgers, let's put it that way. But even though I've seen a lot of, it's not reciprocal. I've never really seen them be helping anyone else out. And I mean, like when I asked that guy for a lift, it was on his way home. We were both at a social group together. And yeah, so like that's just an example, but it is sort of behavior I've seen from them a fair bit. And it's the guy, for example, with the beer, that beer type 9, he would often talk about how he would give people stuff. He would often talk about that, like, you know, but it would always be in the sense of, if I had this, I'd give that. And he didn't have it. And it was I never saw him buy anyone a beer. Let's put it that way. So yeah, this is a significant sort of dynamic that I've noticed in 9s. I'm not trying to suggest that every 9 does this, but yeah, it's prominent, let's put it that way. Anyway, it's February 2025. Thank you.